On April 11th, 2014, Corey Brewer would have the most excellent game in his NBA career. He would drop an insane 51 points against the Houston Rockets. Not only that, but the Timberwolves also hit a game-winning jumper that night, which only made the game more astounding. After that night, fans, the media, and players couldn't believe what they had heard. A journalist asked LeBron about Brewer's performance, and his response was something that everyone was thinking that night. As great of a game that was one of his only milestones as a player in the NBA. He would last for a while in the league, but never did anything worth discussing, and he would eventually vanish from the NBA. So how do you go from this stud who dropped 51 points in a game to being an average player for the rest of your career? Well, let's take a look. Corey Brewer was born and raised in Portland, Tennessee. He was a reasonably tall player in high school as he came in at 6'7" in his senior year. Brewer balled out in his final year of high school, averaging 29 points and 13 rebounds per game. Rivals.com believe he was a 4-star recruit, which is a good rating. Brewer attended the University of Florida and achieved many milestones in college. He was a 2-time NCAA champion, 2-time NCAA All-Tourney, a high school parade All-America, 2-time All-SEC tourney, a Defensive Player of the Year, a Most Outstanding Player, an All-SEC, and an All-Freshman. Brewer accomplished a lot in just 3 years. And the craziest part was that he wasn't even the best player on his team. He was surrounded by other great college players like Joakim Noah, Torian Green, and Al Horford. Either way, Brewer still caught the attention of many NBA scouts, and because of the watch, he decided to skip his senior year in college and go straight to the NBA. He declared for the 2007 NBA draft and was selected 7th overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves, officially putting a start to his NBA career. The first couple of seasons of Brewer's NBA career started slow. He was improving much in his rookie season and suffered a torn ACL the following year. 2009-10, he played his first entire season as a starter. He played in all 82 games and averaged 13 points, 2 assists, and 3 rebounds per game, which is pretty good. He was just 23 years old at the time, meaning he still had a lot to prove to the Timberwolves. That is, until Minnesota decided to send him away. He was traded to the New York Knicks in February 2011. He was part of the Melo trade, where he became a Knick. And by the way, this is not the last time I'll mention Brewer getting traded or signing with another team. He played for 8 teams in his NBA career and moved around a lot. The Knicks wouldn't even give him a chance, as he got cut before playing a game. He would then sign with the Dallas Mavericks for a year. Signing with Dallas was a blessing for Corey, because that season, the Mavericks would win the NBA Finals and defeat the Miami Heat. Brewer had already done more than most NBA players at just 24 years old. After winning the Finals, the Mavericks decided it was best to send him away. He was traded to the Denver Nuggets. He lasted 2 seasons in Denver and didn't play too badly. In 2012-13, he averaged 12 points, an assist, and 2 rebounds per game. Like I said the first time, this is alright. This was either an average or above average season. After playing 2 seasons in Denver, his contract was up, and he did not re-sign with the Nuggets. Instead, he decided to go back home to his original team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. He signed a 3-year, $15 million contract with the team, and the upcoming season would be the year he had his incredible game. On April 11th, 2014, the Minnesota Timberwolves played against the Houston Rockets at home, a team that was playing very well and were contenders. On the other hand, the Timberwolves were a mediocre team who were still building and trying to progress. Well, it's safe to say one guy on their team decided to take over that night. Corey Brewer's stat line was unbelievable. He had 51 points, 2 rebounds, an assist, and 6 steals while shooting 19 for 30 from the field and 11 for 15 from the cherry stripe. He was insane. The Timberwolves wouldn't just win this game, they would have a Hollywood ending, as Gorgui Dieng, a rookie, hit a game winner. Seriously, what more could you ask for in terms of entertainment? Brewer became the 4th player in NBA history to drop 50 points and have 6 or more steals. He also tied Kevin Love's record for most points in a game in franchise history. The craziest part about this game wasn't the performance. It was that out of every player who was on the court that night, so James Harden, Chandler Parsons, hell, even Ricky Rubio, Corey Brewer was the guy who dropped 51. How wild is that? Well, if there was one guy who had the most relatable reaction, it was the king, LeBron James. The next day, LeBron James was getting interviewed after a game, and here's what the conversation was between Bron and the journalist. LeBron, did you hear about Corey Brewer? Nah, he dropped 51 tonight. Wait, who? As I said previously, this reaction was gold. He thought the same thing as every NBA fan, reporter, and player. People were in disbelief at what they witnessed and heard. All this attention was a great feeling for Brewer. But little did he know, he would never retaliate or have anything near that performance for the remainder of his career. After having the most remarkable performance in his career and one of the best by a player that season, fans believed Brewer could have been something special, but that wasn't the case. In December 2014, Brewer was traded to the Houston Rockets, and his role went from an everyday starter to a solid forward off the bench. He lasted in Houston until 2017, when he had to pack his bags again. The Rockets sent him and a first-round pick to the Lakers for Lou Williams. The more he got traded and changed teams, the more it impacted his role and performance. He went from averaging 30 minutes per game to now averaging around 15 to 16 minutes. Brewer lasted a few months in LA until the team waived him. His season was not over yet, as the Thunder decided to pick him up. This signing was good for Brewer as he reunited with his college coach, Billy Donovan. After playing 18 games with the Thunder, it was the offseason, and this is where Brewer's regression started to kick in. Not one team signed him in the 2018-19 offseason. In January 2019, he signed a 10-day contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. His performance was good enough to earn a second 10-day contract, but sadly, it wasn't enough to earn a contract for the rest of the season. He would then go through the entire 10-day process with the Kings, earning two 10-day contracts and eventually signing for the rest of the season. 2019-20 would be his final season in the NBA. He only played in 2 games and would never return on an NBA team. As much as it hurt to no longer play, Brewer's coaching career began that same year. On November 16, 2020, the New Orleans Pelicans signed him as a player development coach. This signing was perfect timing as it transitioned smoothly to his announcement of retiring from the NBA, putting an end to his 13-year career. So let's respond to the question asked earlier in the video. How did Brewer go from a guy who had one of the best performances the NBA had seen in recent history to regressing more and more each season until he was a player and no more? Well, here's my take. Corey Brewer never had a place he could call home throughout his career. The longest time he lasted on a team was 3.5 years with the Timberwolves. Besides that, he kept moving around. Because of all these trades, his role was also changing a lot. He wasn't a star athlete who would have the same position on any team. He was an above average player, meaning he could have been in the starting lineup or anywhere on the bench. It depended on the team. Anyways, the fact he moved around so much was brutal for him because he wasn't sure how much he would get played or what the team wanted from him. And as time passed, his performance regressed, making it harder for organizations wishing to have him on their roster. Eventually, he reached a point where teams were no longer interested in him, which ultimately put an end to his NBA career. Despite not being a high-caliber player, he had a great run in the NBA with ups and downs. He lasted 13 seasons in the league, far more than any other players. And now that he's a coach, he can mentor young players to help them be the best version of themselves.